I grew up, I think like a lot of people probably listening, it was challenging. My childhood was challenging. It was very chaotic. It was, the word trauma seems, up until recently, seemed so weird to say, because when you grow up in it, it seems normal. Even though it's not right, it still just feels like you're normal. But my first few memories, I write about this in the book. I remember almost drowning. I remember looking up and not being able to see the side of the pool. I had snuck away from my mom. She didn't notice, and I fell into a pool, and I was saved by my dog.
How old were you?
Two. I was 2.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so I have very vivid memories of my youth. And I did call and clarify and get the details, make sure that I actually had the details correct when I was writing this book. But my dog, who followed me everywhere, I had this German Shepherd that I just loved, and he was the most consistent, reliable male in my life. So, I still have a thing about German Shepherds just for that reason. But he saved my life. And then my next memory was being left alone. And I remember waking up being terrified and just completely just panic stricken. I was about 2.5. I was left alone. Everyone just sort of forgot me. And then my third memory was my uncle being murdered in a drug deal gone wrong. So I had one uncle who was a heroin addict, and the next one, he was murdered because of my uncle who was a heroin addict. My other uncle was murdered. And so it was just total pandemonium and chaos in my house with the police there, everyone screaming. But the point being that those were my first 3 memories. And when you grow up in an environment where there's constant screaming, chaos, police being called, addiction, mental illness, you start to think that, that you're always looking for what's next. I was always looking for that tiger around the corner. It wasn't safe. And my mom was not really around. She was a 16-year-old runaway. She had left home because her environment was even worse than mine. And so she never finished high school. She was actually homeless and on the street for a little while. And she's tough. She's one tough woman. She was determined to pull us out of that same environment that she had grown up in. She was determined that she was going to become successful financially. And eventually she did. But when I was a child, she was not. We were poor. And so I was left alone. I mean, I was a latchkey kid, or I was left even worse. I was left with people who, caused a lot of harm. So I actually preferred being left alone. When I was finally 5 and able to stay home alone, I was grateful.
When you were 5,
yeah,
you were able to be left alone.